You either remember this absolutely iconic bouncy theme song by Mark Mothersbaugh from growing up from the late 90s or early 2000s. And honestly, what have you been doing? The Rugrats weren't just a cartoon, it was a full blown pop culture juggernaut. And for us kids who grew up back then, it's probably meant to spend hours struggling with the clunky tank controls. Or as often the case, you squint really hard to navigate an unseen world with the dim lit glow of your non-LED Game Boy. This is where Rugrats the Retro Rewind Collection for various platforms comes in. Developed by Mighty Rabbit Studios and published by Limited Run Games, it's literally a digital time capsule jamming 6 classic titles from the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and the original PS1, all into one $20 package. It's not only here to reinvent the world, its primary goal is to recapture and preserve a specific flavor of your childhood. Let's talk about performance, because seeing those old school 32-bit polygons and glorious 4K is always kinda wild. This collection uses the Mighty Rabbit's Carbon engine to upscale the 3D games. Think Search for Reptar for example, in pristine native 4K resolution. And yeah, those edges are ridiculously sharp. Because there are authentic, emulations, don't expect any magic modern makeovers because you're still going to experience those familiar PS1 texture warping and the ever so slightly shaky geometry, but it runs smooth now at a 60 frames per second on the PS5 that is absolutely joy to behold. For the 2D handheld titles like Castle Capers on the GBA, the collection opts for clean integer scaling to prevent any muddy pixels on a massive display. And if those new finagle sharp screens aren't your jam for retro games, no worries. The presentation includes fantastic legacy filters, which you can switch on those, and those inviting CRT scanlines that scream the 90s, or enable the dot matrix filter to recapture the Game Boy look. The 4x3 screen, is neatly framed with customizable border that features iconic Rugrat characters like Tommy, Chucky, just to name a few, and all it is pretty darn glory. From the audio perspective, it's pure underrated nostalgia. You'd be happy to know the original audio compression is perfectly preserved, meaning you'll get the wonderfully crunchy chiptune sound from the handheld games, and the clear CD quality audio from the PS1 titles. And hearing those original voice actors again, like E.G. Daily as Tommy, to Cheryl Chase as Angelica, just instantly injects life back in those games. Plus, there's Digital Museum in the main menu, with a built-in music player that functions as a great on-demand jukebox for all those soundtracks. When it comes to the gameplay, the variety here is staggering and is a clear reflection of the licensed games that you can look back in the day. The PS1 games are essentially, your casual toddler-friendly collectathons, and you wander around the pickle house hunting for Reptar puzzle pieces. Do a simple fetch quest and dive into various minigames like mini golf or zipping around in Reptar-shaped car. The handheld titles skew heavily towards the 2D, platforming and side-scrolling. What truly keeps these games, from feeling utterly ancient is the inclusion of the modern quality of life features. You got your trusty save states, and of course that really comes in handy. And the most impactful addition by far is the dedicated rewind button. Mess up a jump, no problem, just hit that rewind button and just do it again, just but better. And get smacked by an errant toy robot. Just hold down the trigger and just turn back the time for a few seconds, just give it another go, like I mentioned earlier. This feature alone is a massive game changer that modern players will undoubtedly have to rely on heavily because, retro players myself, we didn't have that kind of option back then, so, you had to take it on the chin or just do it again better. Let's take off the nostalgia goggles for a second because I have to talk about the flaws. While the emulation itself is great, the core design of these games have aged terribly. The 3D titles suffer from horrendous legacy camera system. Because these games were designed before the dual analog controls became standard, the camera frequency gets stuck behind walls, fights with your inputs, and makes navigating tight indoor spaces infuriating. Compounding this, a total lack of button remapping, you're forced to use the original, sometimes baffling control layouts on the modern DualSense controller. which feels off stiff. Additionally, despite the bright kid-friendly aesthetics, some of the 2D handheld levels are feature unfairly difficult. They were talking, blindly jumps where you can't see what's below you, and the enemy placement that feels downright malicious. Without that rewind feature, a few of these titles would be downright unplayable today. Ultimately, Rugrats Retro Rewind Collection is exactly what it promises to be. Wobbly, flawed, and undeniably charming, the trip down memory lane. With 6 games that's included for a wallet-friendly $20, the collection offers plenty of nostalgia value for longtime fans. The 4K upscaling and vintage CRT filters looks fantastic, helping these classic titles feel right at home on modern screens, while the quality of life additions like the rewind features and save state significantly help reduce the frustration and make the games more appealing. However, the collection is without its, shortcomings or issues, what I like to say. The 3D camera controls remain clunky and dated. The lack of control remapping is a missed opportunity with accessibility, and the games themselves still suffer from a fair amount of classic late 90s junk. But if you didn't grow up with these titles, there's honestly not much here gameplay wise to win you over. With that said, for the nostalgia driven gamers, this collection is lovely, crafted, if imperfect, nostalgia bomb. And for that, I give Rugrats Retro Rewind Collection a 2 out of 5. Thanks for tuning in to the gamer section. If you enjoyed the review, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn that bell on for notifications so you don't miss out on future content.